Hey everybody, hope you're doing well and getting ready for the Christmas season. Won't be long before it's here and gone. But I just want to share with you guys today um, what we talked about at youth this past week. And I want to read from Luke 14:7-15. And it's, Christ is here talking to the Pharisees and challenging them to be humble and not to be exalt yourself and puff yourself up. And so that's what we talked about with the youth is, for us to be humble. And like C.S. Lewis, he has a good quote. He describes humility not as thinking less of ourselves, but as thinking of ourselves less. And I think that's a great way of describing that. There's times we need to think about ourselves. There's times we need to put ourselves first. Those times, when we need sleep, we need rest. We need to do tasks, work done, or spend time with the family, or do the things, Sabbath, and spend time with God. So there's times that we need to, say no to people or to other things and do what we need to do and get that done in life. But what I'm talking about is times where our heart motives, our heart issues of doing things because of pride or because we want the recognition or praise, or if we just want things, covet them, and when we do that, that's when we don't become humble. And we talked about when we're humble, we can actually, when we do that, we can share Christ's love. We can have that. We can care about others. We can put them first, listen to them, care for them. But when we don't, when we become prideful, when we put the focus on us, we can't love like Christ. We can't do the things that Christ asks us to do. We don't put others first. We put our desires first, our needs first. It's all about us. And then we stop loving people and start loving ourselves. And then that's when the love of God leaves us, and it becomes the love of man. And we begin to sin, and many sins come, and we continue on sinning in that state. But I want to read from Luke 14. Christ is talking to two people, the guests of this get together or dinner, and then he talks from verse 12-15. He talks to the host. And so I'm going to start reading from verse 7 of Luke 14. Now he began telling a parable to the invited guests when he noticed how they had been picking out the places of honor at the table, saying to them, "Whenever you are invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for someone more distinguished than you may have been invited by him. And the one who invited you both will come to you and say, 'Give your place to this person,' and then in disgrace you will proceed to occupy the last place. But whenever you are invited, go and take the last place, so that when the one who has invited you comes, he will say to you, 'Friend, move up higher.' Then you will have honor in the sight of all who are dining at the table with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted." I was going to stop there and talk about the guest. We have a spot here where Christ is there, and he's watching everybody run to the table and get the seats of honor. And as I was just looking at this, and it was described back then, the tables were kind of set in a square, and the middle seat would be on each section would be the spot of honor, and people would go and try to being called to dinner, and all the kids running to the table trying to get the best spot. The same idea, all the Pharisees were coming and trying to get the best spot of the table. And when we do that, when we think, "Hey, I need this chair," and the chair doesn't, it's set for the person who's the guest, right? Or why the party's happening, or they're sticking together, have this person here. But the chair doesn't do anything magical. Just because you sit in it doesn't mean that you actually are important, or that you are the guest of honor. And we just kind of we put kind of make that an idol. And Jesus saw these men running to this table just to get the best chair, and by sitting in that, they would boast in themselves and to others, saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm in the best chair, and you're not, so I'm better than you." And so Christ challenges them, gives those parables, saying, We know people, there's somebody who deserves to be at the head of the table, right? But they come in and they take the spot farthest away. And, then you say, no, come on up. This is where you belong. We know when we see that kind of character, we understand that. And we see how wise that is, and how meek that person is, and how they are, not boasting about their importance. And that's what Christ is saying for us. Even if we are important, even if we should be at the head table, for us not to let that get to our head and think that we are something, and boast that in front of people, or just flaunt it. But no, come in, be the one that sits at the last table, and and be content. And if someone says, "Hey, come on up," no, I want you here. That's different than someone saying, "Hey, can you please move? You shouldn't be here." And so we see the two different attitudes in the way. And God says in verse 11, He says, "For whoever exalts himself will be humbled." So if we do have that attitude, we exalt ourselves up, God's going to humble us. He's going to break us down and show us that we really aren't that great. But the ones that we are humble, He will exalt us. And there's many verses in Scripture talking about God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Right? James talks about that. First Peter talks about that. And so, if we're proud, God is opposed to us. He's opposite to us. But He has grace for those who are humble. And so we need to make sure that we stay humble and not think that we're all that, because we're not. Honestly, everything that we have is because of God. We only boast in the Lord. And so we shouldn't think of ourselves too highly, or put ourselves higher than any other man or woman around us. And so Jesus talks to the people there. He kind of gives them this parable to kind of, bring their hearts in line with what's right. But then in verse 12, He turns to the person that's hosting the party, and He says, "Now He also went on to say to the one who had invited Him, 'Whenever you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor wealthy neighbors. Otherwise they may also invite you to a meal in return, and that will be your repayment. But whenever you give a banquet, invite people who are poor, who have disabilities, who are limping, and people who are blind, and you will be blessed, since they do not have the means to repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous.'" So Christ isn't saying that we can't have friends and relatives over, and people of distinction at our house. But He's saying is that that's the only people we have. If that's behind in our heart, the motive behind having these people over, so that they would invite us there, or we can get something from them. So nowadays we look at that. How do we apply that to today? If we're just hanging around certain people because we hang out with them, they'll invite us to a nice ball, or a ball. Sorry, I sound like old fashioned. There's no balls now, but to their home, which is maybe a really nice spot. Maybe they're well-to-do people. You're trying to get into that circle, or they can take you to places that you never would go before. And so, are we using that friendship and that motive of dining together so that we can get something in return, or we can be associated with them and maybe get into a higher status, or even a friendship circle? What He's saying is, no, pay it to the people that can't give you anything. And in our church, there's people here, there's people we know, there's people we can find out easily that, we can go and have a meal with them and take it to them. That's what true love is. Going to somebody and, you're going to make that meal, you give it to them, and they can't pay you back at all, but you're still serving them, you're still loving them, and there's no intention in your heart of them ever equaling the task or the deed. And that's what Christ wants us to be like in our heart. We can hang out with our friends, we can have people over, but we need to make sure that that doesn't become something that we desire on the social status, or of getting back something in return. We're supposed to give something without asking for a return. So for us in this world, making sure that, do we know people, even in the church, that we won't associate with, that we won't talk to, or that we think we're better than them? We gotta check our hearts and make sure that it's that person. We need to go talk to them. We need to go care for them. We need to love them. Have them over. Even just bend an ear to them. Have a moment and just talk to them and listen to them. And so I think Christ is saying there, and I think we take from that is for us to make sure that our heart is humble, and that we don't worry about who we associate with in the church. Because I think there's some people that we wouldn't, because we're afraid of what would be said. And so we got to make sure, like, no, are we living like Christ would live? So anybody in the church we would care for, anybody in the church we would talk to, spend time with, share a meal with, and not judge them and not think of ourselves as better than them. But we can be humble ourselves and love one another in Christ and truly live like Christ has shown us and the example he did on this earth. So I'm going to finish with that. Long-winded again, but I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye. Now say goodbye.